Hello, and thank you for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. I'm Cody Proctor. Each weekend, we walk you through the headlines from the past week in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days.
Well, dozens of neighbors came out to look at the scene here at Alsea and Platt Avenue. Now come take a look at your screen. This is exactly what they're seeing. Really, the only thing left of this house here on the corner is one wall towards the back. The rest is completely torn to shreds. Really, there's only wood and glass and some insulation after this incident this morning. Now, despite some neighbors not wanting to speak on camera, every single neighbor I talked with today says the only word to describe what happened here is disbelief. The Post Falls Police Department says it got a call earlier this morning around 5 or 6 of somebody destroying a newly constructed house with an excavator. Officers say when they got to the scene, they saw someone driving away. After a traffic stop, the driver, a 29-year-old man, was arrested for DUI, burglary, and malicious injury to property. I had the chance to speak with one neighbor, Gail Isley, who lives right across the street from where it all happened.
Wayne came and my husband came and woke me up and he said, "They're tearing a house down across the street." And I'm going, "What are you talking about?" I was kind of awake, I just hadn't got up yet. Well, I couldn't believe it. When I walked out the door, I'm going, really? I mean, this just doesn't happen.
One by one, neighbors came to the scene to see the damage, like Deb Corzin, who heard about the demolition through the grapevine.
So my son lives in the neighborhood also, and my son was telling me that a house was demolished on the street, and it's like I didn't see anything, and so I figured I'd just keep walking, and I was thinking, my son must have told me the wrong street. And I got to here, and I seen this house, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, what the heck happened here? Because I thought I'd just seen the house was just sold.
To clarify, Greenstone Homes, one of the companies who manages this property, says the house was not sold, but they were in talks with an interested buyer. Investigators confirmed the person allegedly responsible for the demolition was a construction worker and was also unhoused. Greenstone confirmed with me the man who was arrested does not work for them or their partner companies. Greenstone declined to speak on camera, but sent me a statement saying in part, "We are incredibly disappointed that the event happened, and we are working as quickly as possible to clean up the demolition and make it as safe as it can be for the community." Greenstone says that it could take up to a year before another property is available. In Post Falls, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
Jonathan Bingle says he called Sarah Dixit Monday night to congratulate her and concede his council seat. With all ballot returns tallied, she leads by more than 150 votes.
Oh, living the dream. Life goes on. I've still got beautiful wife and 3 incredible children.
After 4 years, Jonathan Bingle's accepting his time on Spokane City Council is over. He says he'll ensure a smooth transition for council member-elect Sarah Dixit.
I think it still feels really surreal, but starting to kind of sink in with folks calling and trying to just get a start on stuff. So yeah, it's definitely, it's been a wild 12-ish hours.
She calls the week of ballot counting a whirlwind. Bingle led for days until a Friday flip in Dixit's favor. She says the crux of her campaign was knocking on doors, meeting and learning about the people in her district.
I think for me, District 1 is really just emblematic of the hardworking people of Spokane, and I think they respond to that type of effort when it comes to a candidate.
She plans to continue that personal outreach with a primary goal of accessibility to what's happening in City Hall.
A Monday night on council shouldn't be the only way people are getting access to their representatives.
With Dixit's projected win, progressive council candidates will secure a sweep and further solidify a more liberal majority on the dais.
People are really trying to do whatever they can to have local government and state governments really stand up against, the decisions that are happening from the Trump administration.
Yeah, I think it was a bad day for balance.
Bingle says despite being on the conservative superminority during his time on council, he's proud of accomplishments he feels increased public safety. None bigger, he says, than the recently passed Safe Spaces Ordinance,
which is basically everything I've been fighting for since I got on council.
He points to council's passage of laws to criminalize public drug possession and a Parks After Dark ordinance he says cut down on after-hours violence and shootings. But Bingle says it's too early to know if he'll seek another office. For now, he's focused on his business and family.
We're going to let the dust settle a little bit, see where our head's at, and then we'll make some decisions.
Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News. Tonight, I confirmed with Auditor Vicki Dalton those new results do not trigger an automatic recount under the state's election rules. At this point, Dixit leads by more than 150 votes, but to trigger a mandatory recount, the difference between candidates must also be less than 0.5%. Dixit's lead is now well over 1%. Dalton says a recount could still happen if a candidate asks for one, but says that process will cost them. She says the deposit just to request a recount for this race would be more than $3,200, and the price tag to actually complete the new tallies of votes would be much more expensive. Dalton says historically recounts also seldom change the outcome.
And in the last several years, we've had almost no differences whatsoever between the machine count, the main machine count that we certify, and then the recount, whether that recount's done by machine or done by hand, the numbers come out the same. So we've got a really good system.
The election is set to be certified November 25th. Now, if a candidate did request a recount, it could not happen until after certification and the Thanksgiving holiday, so likely it would happen in early December. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It's been a busy week across the Inland Northwest, and we want to help you catch up on some of the stories you might have missed.
That's right. I met with Mayor Lisa Brown right here in our news studio to talk about her proposed budget. Here's what's going on. The city of Spokane is staring at a $13 million deficit in its general fund. The mayor is proposing a major pivot to keep the books balanced, and that does mean there will be cuts. The mayor's proposal includes nearly 20 cut positions, which is fewer than the original warning of 30 to 50 positions that may need to be cut. Now, here's a look at key divisions slated for reduction. 19 positions in community and economic development. The mayor's office would also cut 4 positions. And while police and fire would lose a few, these are administrative positions. The plan does not cut any uniformed members from police or fire departments. As for that 101 positions in public works, they will actually be transferred to the new Transportation and Sustainability Division. That division will be staffed by a total of 121 positions. Now, Mayor Brown says the city needs to raise revenue, which is why her plan proposes a 12% commercial parking tax.
If we did not have this revenue, we would probably have to take cut street funding from the general fund to streets. And that, I think, is where you would start to see the impacts.
The mayor says the good news for Spokane taxpayers is the plan doesn't propose any increases to utility taxes or any decreases in basic services, such as those much needed snow plows. Now, on the Tea with Amanda Rowley, I went in depth with Mayor Brown on this budget proposal. You can watch the full interview right now on KREM 2 Plus. Just go to the news tab and look for the Tea section. Reporting from the KREM 2 Plus studio, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Prepare to vote. With a 6-1 vote tonight, Council voted in favor of Mayor Lisa Brown's emergency declaration following the ongoing government shutdown and worry for federal funding for SNAP benefits. Additionally, it writes the city will fund 50 additional shelter beds, speed up eviction prevention contracts, and fund mobile medication-assisted treatment to substitute any dwindling government funds.
We want to go upstream and prevent more homelessness.
Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown made the declaration in October. Between then and now, a U.S. District Judge directed the Department of Agriculture to fully fund SNAP benefits during the shutdown. Then, Friday, the Supreme Court granted the Trump administration's emergency appeal to temporarily block that order. While the program remains in legal limbo, Councilmember Jonathan Bingle opposed tonight's resolution. He argues it didn't do enough to help those with food insecurity.
It's not about food. It's just not.
He argues securing SNAP benefits is only a small part of the mayor's declaration.
Millions of dollars and up to $30,000 in food. It's not about food. It's about being able for allowing the mayor to get money out to people to do work without going through the contract process. This is just us ceding our authority to the mayor, and there's nothing else about it. It is just that.
Councilmember Kitty Klitsky argued the declaration is about more than SNAP benefits, saying it'll help the city provide counseling and support services to people experiencing homelessness and needing help.
This was never just about SNAP benefits for me. This was about combating the stark impacts of poverty that we're already seeing in the city of Spokane and our fentanyl crisis that we've been going through. We've had people coming to us telling us this is an emergency ever since I've been on council.
With the vote approved, Council President Betsy Wilkerson clarified council members can terminate any city contracts if they feel the right services are not being provided.
These contracts can be terminated at any time. Council has the authority to vote to terminate the contract. So we have not ceded all of our authority.
Hello, I'm Cody Proctor. Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News. You're watching the Week in Review, where we bring you some of the biggest news stories of the past week.
Well, across Spokane, people are pitching in, from pop-up food pantries to free sandwiches. Spokane locals are lending a helping hand to ensure their neighbors don't go hungry.
During a time of need, Great Harvest Bread Co. on Southeast Boulevard found a fresh way to give back.
We're excited to provide for people in need. It feels like the least we can do in a lot of ways.
Through a new program called Food for Friends, anyone can receive a fresh loaf of bread and 2 sandwiches, no questions asked. It's a way to ease the strain of the uncertainty around SNAP benefits.
I don't want people to be scared. Don't be scared to ask. We're doing this because we want to. We're proud to be able to offer you something, and if you need a meal, come get it.
And just down the road on a neighborhood street, Susie Villaro, a single mom of 2, says she felt called to start a food pantry on her front porch.
There's no way that we would have been able to survive without having food benefits, and so it hit pretty home for me. So I just took stuff out of my pantry. It wasn't supposed to be anything big. It was just like things that we weren't using.
Twice now, she says the small stock ran out almost immediately.
So the first time it was full, it was gone within 2 days. And then the second time we filled it, it was gone within an hour.
She says meeting those in need has been emotional. Their gratitude has deeply moved her.
He asked if he could hug me, and he started crying. And then I started crying. That's how you know that you're making a difference, and you're like, yeah, this is the right thing to do.
In their own way, Susie and Sarah both say they are doing what they can within their means to fill a gap in a community they love and care for.
Until people don't need it, we're here. We'll be here baking bread and we'll share.
And for more information on where to find these free meals and free food resources, we'll have more information on KREM.com. I'm reporting in Spokane, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
This is the WARN notice that East Adams Rural Healthcare sent to the state, warning about the possibilities of layoffs and even potentially closing the hospital here in Ritzville. But according to leadership, this is only a formality, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that doesn't happen. The hospital in Ritzville has been around since 1952. But East Adams Rural Healthcare's days could be numbered.
We're in our spot because of financial crisis that we find ourselves in.
According to interim CEO Todd Nida, the crisis includes more than $13 million in losses from 2022 to 2024 when no audits were done.
That is a result of how the facility was managed by prior administration.
When asked about specifics, Nida says he couldn't give those, but adds there are multiple investigations happening.
There's local and county law enforcement involved, DOJ, DEA, OIG, and the SAO office, and the Washington State Medical Commission are currently running investigations here that we are complying with and assisting with.
The WARN notice says East Adams Rural did get $2 million in Washington State hospital distressed funding. However, NIDA wrote in the notice their debt's gotten to a point where vendors can't support them without being paid.
He says their debt sits at about $5 million.
The payoff of that, and a lot of that is our accounts payable to our vendors, is insurmountable for us at our amount of revenue that we take in.
If East Adams Rural can't bridge the gap, 100 employees could potentially be laid off in early January. Closure is also a possibility, hurting both Ritzville and the I-90 corridor. The two other nearest hospitals are in Moses Lake and Odessa, but the drive time of at least 30 minutes to each one isn't ideal.
Every minute counts when you're in a critical situation like that, and that is why we're here, and that is what we're trying to maintain and keep.
Right now, Oneida says they're considering multiple solutions, including working with foundations and state lawmakers to try to change East Adams rural health care from a critical access hospital to a rural emergency hospital, which would help them be more profitable. Now, for those that are concerned about the situation, there will be a community meeting here in Ritzville on Saturday. That'll be at 2 p.m. at Legion Hall. In Ritzville, Cody Proctor, KREM 2 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you, you can get the latest newscasts and weather forecasts anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It's free to watch and download for Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. Now, here's one more story before we go.
Well, I'm standing in Coeur d'Alene along Hanley Avenue and across from Cortair Boulevard. And to my left is an 11-acre field that will be the future home to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints' first ever temple in North Idaho.
I screamed and scared everybody off the couch. So exciting.
Latter-day Saints church member like Tisha Brazee are eager to welcome a temple for the first time to Coeur d'Alene.
When you serve in the temple, you're able to help unite families forever. It's a very special spirit that you feel inside the Lord's house.
I am told in North Idaho, the Latter-day Saints Temple District is one of the largest in the country, from Lewiston up to Bonners Ferry and even reaching Montana. Which is why Brad Moss, a stake president who was on the temple planning committee, says the new Coeur d'Alene temple will relieve some pressure off of Spokane.
The Spokane Temple is actually, it's per square foot, the busiest temple on earth. And so it is busting at the seams, and there's no ability to renovate it and make it bigger. And so there is a certain need to create a new one for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Another church member, Diana Cook, says a Coeur d'Alene temple nearby means less time in the car and more time for worship.
When I was younger, we drove 12 hours through Yellowstone Park to Idaho Falls to the temple, and I'm just super excited.
The site of the temple sits in an area of Coeur d'Alene where new developments are already in the works. As far as worship goes, Moss clarified a temple is a location for special ceremonies, compared to a Latter-day Saints church where Sunday services and weekly activities are held. He says he hopes for old and new members it will be a place where church members can come and feel closer to God.
This is community on a higher level. It's wonderful.
Church leaders tell me they're still a ways away from breaking ground on this site, but they're looking forward to when the temple opens to invite the public to tour the space. I'm reporting in Coeur d'Alene, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Thanks for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here on KREM 2 for more news throughout the weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.